The creators call it I'm schmacked.
I'm schmacked.
Getting schmacked.
I'm schmacked.
I'm schmacked. Getting schmacked. Well, Chris, it's called getting schmacked.
Two, one. Welcome back, everybody. It's been a wee while. I've been sort of... It's hard to get guests every week. It's hard, isn't it, Jordan?
Oh, man, tell me about it. It is very difficult.
Well, these are all in for a treat this week because I have the wonderful, the fantastic stand-up comedian that is Jordan Leslie Robinson. I actually love that middle name, by the way. I absolutely love that middle name.
Man, actually, that's my first name.
Oh, is it?
My middle name's Jordan, but I changed it through years and years of abuse in high school. So
For being called Leslie.
Leslie Jordan, Leslie Robinson Jr.
I can see why. I can see why you would get the tough time at school.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like, yeah, it's best just to leave that in the past.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, happy to be here.
Yeah. You're back out doing stand again. You're one of the lucky ones. You're out and you're busy.
Man.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, no, man, I'm busier now than I've ever been before the pandemic or anything like that. Just flat out. I've been doing tour support for Mickey and Shane out in their tours at the minute, and I've been doing like a lot of gigs that are going around Belfast, kind of like the Hatfield and Lavery's and stuff, and all over the country. And I've been quite over to England quite a lot recently. So
good stuff. It's weird. We're sort of in this, like, you know, because it was closer song, we're sort of in this like weird boom stage where, like, you know, you've got the guys that are out doing shows like week after week after week, whereas before it would have been, you know, you've been waiting for like your big like arena show maybe, or like the SSE or something like that. So it's nice to see that sort of bounce back and see that stand-up's coming really back into itself.
Man, it's how to explain it? It's great that stand-up is not thought of as like, say, live music and stuff is. Simply because like with the legal loopholes and everything like that, with the pubs reopening and live music wasn't allowed to be played for the longest time. Stand up, you know, nobody really counts it as like an art form, and it's like if you go in for grants or anything like that, it's all just because it's like a viable way of making money. You wouldn't like necessarily get the backing or anything like that, but now that it's one of the only, you know, gigs in town, you're just kind of going like, yeah, okay, it was all worth it up until now, because we're the ones that are getting to, you know, go out and gig first, which is great. Like,
so tell me what the shows are now like. Are people having to wear masks? Is it like all spread out, or like what is there sort of like, is everyone sort of following the same principles, or how's it working?
Well, it's obviously, if you took one show before the pandemic and one show now, you could, you know, easily spot the differences and stuff like that. All the social distancing stuff is still in effect. The numbers are reduced capacity just because of social distancing and stuff like that, which going into it, like, I was worried about, because you're thinking it's just not going to be the same with less amount of people. But when you think about it, like a year and a half of the only type of live comedy you're getting is like through like Zoom gigs and stuff like that. The people are more than up for it. So like for every like one audience member before the pandemic is worth it's kind of like the new ones are kind of like worth double that, if even, you know what I mean.
And you haven't had any issues with, like, you know, people haven't been out in a while and like lashing drink into them, or is it sort of, are people on their best behavior?
Yeah, no, that has been an issue in a couple of gigs, but hey, I mean, like, I'd rather have that than no stand-up whatsoever. And it's, you know, it's fun just getting to try out all your new heckle put downs that you've been writing for a year and a half without anybody to try it on apart from your mum, you know, and she doesn't really appreciate it when I do that. So
but would there be any sort of like, so in the crowds that are there, would you have like many people that are getting up and rowdy and like haggling you like flat out, or is it sort of been okay? What has been the vibe there?
It definitely has happened quite a few times, but no, I would say the majority of the times getting out gigging since everything's happened has been an absolute joy to do. Like, so it's, I don't know, it's kind of just like, they're happy we're here, we're happy we're here. It's just like this nice symbiotic relationship we've got going on with the audience at the minute. So
it's
long
good.
may it continue.
I feel like, just going back to that point about like the sort of like bounce back of comedy, I feel like comedy's been almost, there's a complete, people are looking at it in a new way now. I feel like it's completely transformed from what it was before. You know, you thought of comedy, you thought of, stereotypically, you would have thought of like dark, comedy clubs and sort of dingy almost, not to be bad, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's open spaces, air, bright lights. You've flipped it on its head, and it must be strange. What's it like performing in that environment?
It's very like, for example, on the tour shows this year, we went to I forget what the place is called, but it's in Banbridge, and it's out in this old. It used to be like a tennis court, and it's this like beautiful grass lawn, and you're on this like kind of slope. That's where like they normally like set up with the comedians and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just you're going like, in no way, shape, or form should this work, but it does, kind of thing.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. And obviously, the best kind of environment, in my opinion, for comedy is dark room, low ceiling, and everybody packed in. And that's just not what you're getting with outdoor gigs and stuff like that. But yeah, I would say the majority of kind of I don't know if it's comedians kind of like tailoring their sets to gigging in that kind of environment, or whether it's just everybody accepting that, yes, this is a bit different, but fuck it, we'll go for it. Like, we'll try and enjoy it. Yeah, it's just one of those things, I guess.
Good stuff. It was interesting that you said there about the hackles and stuff like that, about, for a lot of people that probably don't know, like the stand-up comedy world, like a lot of writing goes into it, a lot of thought process. It's not just, you don't just rock up and fucking wing it. Doesn't work like that. But you're like put down to stuff for your hackles. You would go in with those pre-written mostly, would you? So like, be well aware, people, if you're listening to this, if you're going to hackle, there's probably something, there's an armory there to come back at them.
Well, it depends. It's that kind of thing of having something in the back pocket just in case. The majority of comedians have these kind of like stock lines that are used to kind of obviously like put the heckle down, encourage them not to do it again, and continue the show as quickly as possible. Because obviously, like you said, there you have like written all this material, and like we appreciate like people thinking like, oh, we'll join in and help, but like the comedians have it, like you don't need to join in whatsoever. So it's I do have a couple, and some of them have like some of the best putbacks and like kind of comebacks, and put downs have all been like kind of improvised on the spot, whether it be something from that night that has already happened, like a callback to something that happened during the night, or when I first started doing stand-up comedy, I was in Chicago and Boston. So I did my first gig in Belfast, first stand-up gig in the Pavilion, and then left for Chicago to go, because I did improv comedy, and I went to IO, which is like a kind of fancy school over in Chicago for it. So I did one gig in Belfast, and the rest have been in Chicago and Boston for like months after. So there is a famous pub in Boston called the Green Dragon, and it's one of those touristy traps, because apparently it's where like people like kind of Sam Adams and stuff like that were like plotting against the English to dump all the tea in Boston Harbor, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of expats from all over Ireland that live like in Boston, and like obviously coming there and being like, oh, we have like a genuine Irish comedian who's going to come on. And so like normally they were packed out with like like every county GAA jersey like in the crowd. You could just like kind of you could pick it out like and there's this one guy sat at the bar, was not giving a fuck about the comedy, he was just drinking. And I was relatively new at this, I was doing some new stuff, and he just like pipes up, he like kind of just lifts his head up and goes like, oh man, you're like, he genuinely looked at me and said, you are shite. And like, but it was an American accent, but he used the word shite, and it just doesn't sound right in an American accent. And I like this to this day is probably the best thing I've ever thought of my feet. I was like, oh, you know what? It's actually funny. We have assholes back home, but we call them Protestants. And I swear to God, man, I don't know. I could have ran for the new Taoiseach right there and then, and I think I would have won. Like, but it's kind of nice, like, because obviously me coming from a Protestant background, I get to play both sides. So it's win-win. Like,
would you lean into more so like the anti-Protestant side? Well, not anti-Protestant, but you know what I'm trying to say. Would you sort of lean into more like?
I pride myself on taking the pit. Like, I'm an equal opportunities offender, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I like just to I wouldn't give one side more than I would the other, but then I don't know, the Protestants just make it so easy.
Yeah, no, yeah, they're easily agitated, like very, very easy. Probably doesn't look good me sitting here with my Nuri Shamrock's gal top on. I actually do think sometimes, like whenever I was starting the podcast and stuff, I was like, should I wear the gal top? Should I wear like the Iron top? Like, would that close off the demographics? But you're like driving yourself insane at that stage. Like, what, I'm not just going to wear something. Like, this is who I am. This is what I do.
Exactly. And I think if anybody gives a shit about like what you're wearing on the podcast when you're talking about comedy, those aren't really the kind of people that you want to listen to you in the first place. Like, so
no, that's actually a very fair point. So tell me about then your original, because I am at the current stage, I'd say now, where like when comedy clubs and like, you know, open mics come back open again, I'll try to be getting back out and, you know, doing bits here and there and like trying to get reps in. But like for you, what was it like when you started? Were you like, what made you want to start? Were you just sitting there one day and was like, oh, I'd like to give it a go? Were you a big comedy fan, or what was it really?
I was a huge comedy fan, like growing up, in terms of like stand up, but like any form of comedy, like movies or plays or anything like that. And I would be like, I found myself like ferociously devouring any kind of comedic content that I could get. But it never really, I never really thought about doing it. Like, you know, Friday nights watching Live at the Apollo and stuff like that. And, you know, every single one of the comedians you just think is the coolest motherfucker on the planet. Like, so like watching that, I guess it kind of planted a seed going like, yeah, I kind of want to do this, but I never thought I'd have like the testicular fortitude to actually do it. But so the way I got started into stand up was I have a couple of heart issues, and so it started off back in like 2016. I started volunteering at a place in Belfast called Giro's Kitchen, which it's no longer there anymore, but it was like a community-based pay what you want cafe kind of place. And I did that because I wasn't able to work because I was recovering from surgery. So I couldn't, because I normally did like bartending and stuff like that. I couldn't be doing that with still recovering from the heart surgery. So I volunteered there one night a week, just cleaning up and doing like food and stuff like that for people. And I met a guy called Paul Moan, who was just back from China, but he was originally from Katy in Armagh.
Oh, very good.
And he spent 5 years over in, I think, Beijing, and he started doing improv comedy while he was out there. That kind of, have you ever seen Whose Line Is It Anyway? On like Dave and stuff like that, reruns of that. So basically, improv comedy is where you get like suggestions and prompts from the audience, and then you do like sketches based on their suggestions. And it's something that I was always like, oh, that's cool as shit. So Paul, when he came back, he was like, right, I'm going to start running my own kind of improv classes if anybody wants to attend. And I was like, fuck yeah, definitely, 100%. So I started doing that. And then we started as the first, out of the Belfast Improv Theatre, the first group to kind of like get together and start doing shows. And they started in the Pavilion, but are now based up in Accidental Theatre, just in Shaftesbury Square beside Lavery's. So I was doing that for my first improv show was the 30th of April 2017, I want to say. Can't remember. I think it was 2017. But so a year gigging like that. And then the 30th of April 2018 was my first stand-up show, because it felt like the natural progression to go from improv when you're on stage with a group of people to the natural progression of that is to start doing like scripted material by yourself. So it was a year to the day from when I started doing improv comedy to doing stand-up. And the year after that, on the 30th of April, I had my first sketch comedy show. So it's kind of nice. So the 30th of April has like a real kind of like you know, significance in my life now, just because that's the date I start most things.
It's weird whenever people sort of say, "Joe, a specific date to me when they start." Someone's like, "Well, we must have like, you know, something really important." But it's just that the fact that every single year on this date, there's sort of like a progression step
happens.
there.
Yeah, it just happens. It just happened to be that way, and it's kind of nice now, because of like if I'm planning, like maybe if I was planning like a solo show or anything around that time, you know for certain what date it's going to be like.
Yeah. So tell me then about that first show. Then the first ever stand up you did solo. You didn't have anybody else beside you. It was like obviously it was completely different. You know, you're trying out your script and
Yeah.
stuff. You don't have people stand beside you. But like, what were you feeling? Were you just a nervous wreck, or were you sort of because you had the experience of the improv, you were sort of all right with it, a bit more comfortable?
You see, I that's actually a fucking great question. Because I did feel comfortable on stage at that point because we'd done like maybe like between 15 and 20 improv shows in that year. From the point of my first one to the point of doing my first stand-up show. And I would say like day to day, like if anybody asked me, I'd be like, yeah, I'm fucking comfortable. No problem. But I remember I was on like halfway through the night, got there super early, writing down your set, going like, okay, this needs to be, you know, don't deviate from the script, go like 100% what you've written. And I got there, the gig wasn't until started to 8. I was there at like 5, had something to eat, and then just went on the booze. And that was, and to this day, I have never done a gig as drunk as I was on my first ever gig.
Did you like invite any friends with you, or to like try and like, you know, bring them with them, or was it like just sort of like a sneaky wee, I'll go off here and try this and let nobody know if it goes bad?
See, I would have loved to say that I didn't invite anybody for moral support, but yeah, it was my first stand-up show, and it was completely sold out because all my friends came down to see me. So I think it's genuinely the case of, even if what I was doing was absolute dog shit, like I still think, you know, I was the next Dave Chappelle coming off stage. Just you get all the sympathy laughs from your mates and stuff like that. But it was a real stark kind of like kick up the ass when you go from that to gigging in Chicago, which is a very, very famous comedy city. And you've got absolutely no one in your corner. That's when you kind of go like, oh shit, no, I can't rely on these people anymore. I need to actually be funny if I want to keep doing this. Like,
and then was it sort of like, did you stick to that original script for long, or were you sort of constantly trying out new stuff at the beginning, or what was your sort of plan?
So my first gig was a lot of the stuff was kind of like based in like a lot of the references you had to be from Northern Ireland to get. So I had to completely essentially write a new 5-10 minutes when I went to the States, just because like, you know, people aren't going to know where Ochnagelvin is in Chicago. Like it's just not going to happen. But like I was kind of raised and stuff like that on a lot of American pop culture and sporting culture and stuff like that. So I was able to kind of like tap into that to kind of like almost surprise people, going like, yeah, this guy, he's from Ireland, he has the accent and everything like that, but he knows, you know, the starting lineup for the 2004 Boston Red Sox World Series winning team. Like, so it was, yeah, I definitely had to change it. But when I came back home, I dug up my like first set from doing the PAV and stuff like that, and I was like, oh yeah, this will go down great and stuff like that. And I was doing quite well when I was in Chicago and Boston. But when I got home, I found out it was just because I was kind of like a gimmick.
Right.
So
Okay.
like they just heard the Irish accent and they clapped like seals. Like it was nothing to do with the jokes, and I was getting on like good paid gigs and stuff like that. And it was just because I, you know, I had the kind of like oddity of being from somewhere else. And when I came home to Belfast, they were like, these jokes are actually shit, and I actually really need to, you know, start thinking about writing new stuff. But yeah, no, man. It was the best wake up call you could get. You know, just coming, because it was literally, I got into Belfast I flew into Dublin, got the bus down, got into Belfast about 6, and I was gigging that night. I had arranged it while I was like traveling over from Boston. So, left my stuff off at the apartment, went to do the gig, and I'm like, right, this is it. You know, I'm gonna stamp my name on the Belfast comedy scene here. I'm big fish coming back into the small pond. And it was this thing called, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, it's called a burr pit. So it's kind of like the kind of X Factor auditions, where the audience members have like 3 cards, and if they don't like you and all 3 cards go up, then you're out, kind of thing. And it's like a competition.
Would it be mid-set, or just they could just put up their, would they be like mid-set just putting up their cards and that's you gone? Oh my god, that's ruthless.
Terrifying. But that was the first gig. The first gig back, and you do 5 minutes of comedy. Now I didn't get X'd out or anything like that from the crowd, but I was so nervous I ran through my entire set. I had for 5 minutes, but I ran through it in like 3 minutes, so I had 2 minutes. And I didn't know what to do, so I just started rapping Rapper's Delight from the Sugar Hill Gang for the last 2 minutes of my set. And I made it through, but I didn't win. But like at least I didn't get buzzed off. And I think that gave me a wee kernel thing going like, okay, you can think on your feet, it's fine.
I'll be able to get myself through these things. That's hilarious. What was the audience reception? What was the audience reception to that? They're just like, what is going on?
They were just like,
this guy's yeah, he's terribly confused what he's meant to be doing right now.
Exactly. It's so good, like so good.
That's amazing. So like, it's weird when going over to America because the Northern Irish scene, I'm fairly new to all this sort of comedy stuff and like the names over here. Like I would have heard of Shane and Colin, maybe I would have been the two names I would have heard of, but now I'm diving into it and you're finding more people and you seeing who's like headlining. Like there's exceptional talent in Northern Irish stand-up comedy. Like it is very, very, very good, I have to say. But the point I was going to make is, and even just Irish in general, struggle to make it over in like the American cities and stuff like that. Like, what do you think that would be down to? Do you think it's the accent? Because I always think they just struggle to pick up what we're actually saying.
I think it's hard to say because I don't know of any major kind of people who have tried and failed, if you know what I mean.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I think it's like for like people like, for talk's sake, Tommy Tiernan or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he could probably do a tour in the States and it would all depending on how long it is and like how big the tour is itself.
Mm-hmm.
Could probably sell out the majority of the nights and stuff like that, but you still wouldn't necessarily think of him as like a household name in America or anything like that. And I don't know if it's I think more research needs to be done in kind of like experiment style conditions, because I don't really know, but this is probably the hill that I will die on. Out of all the different places I've gigged and stuff like that, and I know this may sound just because I'm from here, but I have never gigged anywhere that has a comedy scene as good as the one in Northern Ireland. And I do separate it from the South because obviously the border being there, and no matter what your politics is, there's a clear divide between Southern comedians and Northern comedians, if you know what I mean.
Definitely.
But like, yeah, it's just something special about the Northern Irish scene. It's because nobody pays attention to what anybody's doing here. You know, there's no media spotlight going like, you know, famous NI comedian, blah, 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 blah. It's just like nobody's really paying attention. So we just do kind of what we feel like or whatever the fuck we think will be funny. And that's how like Colin is the best example of it. He just is, it's hard to explain like without sounding like a fangirl, but he's just kind of cultivated his own thing, not off anybody's back, like not off a BBC show or anything like that, just all from his own content. So that's why I think that the Northern Irish scene is top of the pile.
Yeah, because it's one of those things, I suppose, for people, if you like maybe aren't that big into comedy and stuff like that, and you're like sort of looking to get interested, get out to the clubs. I mean, Belfast sort of holds the chips really for Northern Ireland comedy, but there is all, you know, good clubs out there, like up in Derry is a Chicken Box, and like you have those places as well. Like there is great places too. I think down in Uri here, for people who are listening here, there's the McCooey's gig that Darren runs, but it hasn't been on in quite a while. But we're potentially scheduling. I think whenever he was on, he was sort of pitching the offer to me to go to do that one. So that could be a lot of fun to do stand up again. But
man, Uri is one of those towns that gets like the piss taken out of it all the time for stand-ups. Like stand up there in Lurgan, it's like people just don't like gigging there.
Really?
Touch wood so far, I have never ever had a bad gig in Uri, and I fucking love McCooey's. Like, so
yeah,
as soon as I can get down, I will definitely get down to McCooey's. Like,
because I could not believe there was a comedy club down here. Whenever I started, I was like, McCooey's, what? And then I was like, Darren, I was like, what? I was like, it's as you said, it sort of lives underneath the floorboards almost, the comedy scene. Like no one's paying any attention to it. And I think it's a Friday, you have this unbelievable bring your own fucking drink comedy night with like some of the best talent that you're going to find up here. Like, and it really, again, I know I'm sounding like a fangirl, but like it really is, you know, if you're not a part of it, it's something you should really start to fucking look at, because the
100%.
use the gays missing out. Like,
100%, man. 100%.
so
Yeah, it's that kind. It's oh, what? Sorry.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's like it's you normally find these little things, little rooms and stuff like that that aren't necessarily the best advertised or the most popular or whatever. They always seem to be little diamonds in the rough, like because they're always great nights.
No, 100%, 100%. And talk to me because you are an avid podcaster. Not only are you kind enough to join me here today, you have, how many podcasts have you got on the go now?
So I've got two of my own at the minute that I do. One with Darren Matthews is called Injury Time, where it's just like kind of like a weekly sports podcast, and then a movie podcast that I do with another comedian called Heather Anderson, and it's called Pop Kernels. It's just a movie review podcast that we do each week. And
correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there was a competition, Northern Ireland Comedian of the Year, and only one of them I think went ahead. And was it Heather that won it? Is that right?
I remember because we this was just before the lockdown came in, and there's maybe 4 or 5 of us going to, where was it? It was the Irish Centre or something like that in London, and we were doing a gig just before St. Patrick's Day, and that was the one we missed. But I like it was kind of like almost like, you know, checking your phone for the football results. And just that gig went back home, because we were all the majority of the people there at the London gig were all on like later dates. I think I was on for McCooey's before everything got cancelled, and I was just like, this is perfect because I love gigging there. But yeah, no, I can't remember if who got through. I think it could have been Sean Tanavasa.
Oh yes, went through.
I think so, but I can't remember. But yeah, no, I just heard that it was a very difficult gig to do. Like,
really?
Oh yeah.
Why? What was the whispers?
So no, this isn't the kind of the rule of thumb for everybody, but the first one was held in the Black Box, and I'm speaking personally 100% on my own accord here, but I have never had a good gig in the Black Box. It's always something, just like something could have been better, or, you know, something's happened where, you know, you just go like, okay, yeah, that was a bit shit. So like for me, there would have been, if I was doing it, it would have been like a psychological barrier there, going like, if I was doing this in the PAV or anywhere else, I think I would have killed. But yeah, no, it's a tough room, and when it's during the day as well, and the sun's coming in through the windows, it's that kind of thing where it's just like it's inside, but you feel like you're outside, and it feels like comedy shouldn't be being like. People shouldn't be doing comedy at like 3 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon, if you know what I mean.
No, yeah, 100%.
So it kind of, for me, it kind of feels like it's working against you. But yeah, no, I'm really disappointed that we didn't get to do the rest of the heats, because I reckon that would have been a good old night down in Uri. Like,
I was thinking whoever won that one night is technically the reigning, the only person at the minute. The what has it been, like a year and a half? Northern Ireland comedian of the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, like, hey, if you need an episode name for this podcast, I think that's it.
Tell me this: have you been doing any of the online gigs? Did you do any of the Zoom gigs during the pandemic? Then
I got offered to do a couple, and I did some. There was like what's the word? Kind of like an 8 out of 10 cats kind of panel show thing that we did at the start, and me and other comedian William Thompson were booked to do it. And you see, after that gig, I questioned every single decision I ever made up until that point, and I'm like, maybe comedy's just not for me, you know. So no, man, for me, it's just the disconnect of not having the actual audience in front of you would be, it's just too much. Like, I wouldn't be able to continue if it was all over Zoom.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would
Because
pick up a new hobby.
I did think about it. I thought about it at the time whenever I was like, maybe this will be good. I've done 2 gigs, get a few reps and stuff. And then I was just like, I just don't think it would be for me. It does seem like there's people out there that love it though. I know they have like the chicken box one that goes live every week and stuff like that. Like,
chicken box one's pretty good. Like, they Rory's got a good system going with that one. But I don't know. I think it just suits different comedians more than it suits others.
Yeah.
And with me, I would just I don't know, it kind of like sucks all the fun out of it for me, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. It's weird too, because like on Zoom, even like through this conversation, like you have like that like half a second delay, and that is Joe, that just disrupts your time in the laughs. Like it's just to me, it would just seem very, very strange to do. But to each their own. If you enjoy it and that's your thing, then fair enough. But I definitely think the live gigs are the way to go moving forward.
Yeah. I don't know about you, like, but I've been recording. So all the episodes of Pop Kernels have been recorded over Zoom, and there is that like split second where you're going like, who's talking?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then going like that. And it is the biggest pain in the hole when you're trying to edit stuff that you have to go around like every couple of seconds and just take out the dead air.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely horrible. Like, because you just have that wee awkward, like looking at each other thing. And it depends too. Like, the internet connection here seems actually quite good. This is one of the better ones, in fairness. But like, I've definitely done podcasts before, and I'm sitting there going through it. Like, a podcast isn't my podcast typically 45 minutes to an hour long. So trailing through that and cutting out every little like break, you're just sitting there like, I am going to go insane.
Did you pause that on purpose, or did you mention internet connection and it froze?
No, it didn't.
That would have been fucking
Did it freeze?
You froze for like, as soon as you said pretty good internet connection, you froze for like 5 seconds.
Fuck you, Zoom. Fuck you.
Couldn't write it. You couldn't write it.
That's what I mean. You spend all this time writing things thinking you're going to be the fucking, next Dave Chappelle, as you said, and then fucking the internet stands you up like that.
Exactly. If you just start complaining, hopefully if you just start complaining about stuff that you actually want to happen, like you can't close your wallet over because it's that full, maybe that'll start happening. So it's all about like thinking things into being, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Positive thinking.
So then I want to know more about these podcasts. So you do the Injury Time one with Darren. I've listened to it a few times. It's very good. You're a massive sports guy. You seem to know basically everything about sports.
Yeah. So looking at me, you wouldn't immediately go like, "Oh, this guy loves the sport." But like growing up, I really didn't. It was when I was in, what was it, maybe 1999, so whatever age I was back then, that's when I just started getting into like football and stuff like that. And when I was younger, I had like a Rain Man level of obsession with baseball.
Okay.
And then my brother started playing ice hockey. I did to a certain extent, but Sam, my brother, has always excelled and stuff like that, to the point where he and my cousin Adam have been playing for the Giants for the past couple of seasons.
Oh, wow.
And so that was the ice hockey ticked off. I love American football. Tried out for one of the teams in Belfast because the whole heart thing couldn't get playing, which was a bit annoying. And yeah, man, I just any and all. Well, with a few exceptions. So like things like cricket, golf, tennis. Not a huge fan. But pretty much anything else, I'm game. Like, I love sport. Like,
I'd be the same. It's actually a shame with the like time difference for like the Olympics. I really, really haven't been keeping up with it. But I would say, I'm trying to think. I used to hate Formula One. Used to despise Formula One. I was like, why would anyone sit and watch that? But then the Netflix documentary came out. I don't know if you've seen it, and it was phenomenal.
Well, you see, this is the thing. I forgot to mention that was one of the sports that I absolutely despise.
Yeah.
I cannot. And like everybody's been telling me to watch the Formula One documentary on Netflix, but I'm just like, I don't know. I feel salty enough to not even give it a chance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that level of hatred where you won't even try.
Exactly, man. I'd rather watch like Harry Kane try to speak English on that Amazon Prime documentary rather than give that one a go. Like,
but I was completely the same. I was like, I hate Formula One, can't watch it. Watch the documentary, and I'm not an avid fan, but like with the age of YouTube now, it's class. Where like, remember that weird stage where like they wouldn't put any clips on YouTube of like sporting events? Like you had to watch Match of the Day every night to watch football. Where now everything's on YouTube in like 3-minute snippets, so you can literally watch.
Exactly.
Like last year, I got into NFL because you can watch 10-minute highlights. You can watch Formula One in 5 minutes. Like you don't actually have to watch the live sports anymore, which is for me perfect.
Exactly. It just cuts it down perfect. Like I found that a lot with the hurling and the football this season as well. It's just so perfect. Like because if you're not watching the Sunday game, it's kind of nice that you have like you can either watch the full game because they film some of the full games, and then or you could just watch the like 10-15 minute highlights.
Exactly.
and you're all caught up, which is very handy when you're doing a sports podcast and you don't have time to watch, so many different games of football. Like,
Mhm.
so it's good. It's good to have that.
And have you always been into the Gaelic and Hurlers? Up in a fairly new one for you?
100% new, man. It was Darren that got me into it. Because when he joined East Belfast GAA,
Mhm.
he said, "Oh, you should come along sometime. I think you'd enjoy it." And I was just like, skeptical. But when I did, it's one of my. If football wasn't football, I think hurling would probably be my favorite sport.
Really?
Yeah, and obviously I don't play it to like in like club form or anything like that. But like once or twice a week, me and Darren head down to the Dub or
Mhm.
to Cherryville or something like that and have a puck about. And we've been doing that since the restrictions have eased in lockdown.
Very
So
good.
that's pretty much all we've been doing.
Mhm.
So it's kind of nice to have that new kind of thing, and obviously it does your physical and mental health good to kind of get out and smack a ball like up the pitch, and then I would like to say jog after it, but slow walk to go get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think Darren has dogs, doesn't he? His dogs probably just go fetch a lot of the
Oh yeah,
time. He needs to get them boys well
exactly.
trained.
Smart. He's a smart man. I think that's the only reason he got dogs as well, because he was bored, like running after the slitter. Like,
Then, so have you ever actually been to an actual GA event, or is it like you've been in it long before that? Have you been to one?
I went to one with a friend a couple of years ago. It was Westmeath against Down in Uri,
God love you. Oh my God.
and I swear to God, and this, like, I was going to write a bit about it, but people would never fucking believe it actually happened, like, because it's almost like too formulaic.
Mhm.
But we were going there, and being raised Protestant and stuff like that, he like it was just like pointing me out, going like, this is where you go to get sacrificed at halftime and stuff like that. But I'm like, I 100% on my father's grave swear this is 100% true. They read out like the raffle ticket, like the winning raffle ticket at halftime uh of the game, and I swear to God, the winning raffle number was 1690. And as soon as that was said, my friend Cormac just looked at me, and I was just like, I can't use that. It's nobody would believe it. Like, so yeah, that was my one football match. But I've been to a bunch of hurling football matches with East Belfast, and the amount I've watched this season, I
Mhm.
nearly I'd say call myself a professional. The amount I've watched, like,
It's
and
interesting.
I find this weird.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I find it weird that I'm having like loads of different kind of. I'm forming alliances with loads of different counties that I never thought I would.
Like who?
Like, I have absolutely no connection to Offaly. But I also like when I always want to see them do well. They're kind of like the Portsmouth of GAA. Just you don't support them, but you always keep an eye on them when you're checking the scores. Kind of thing.
Awfully, it can't even. Awfully, where do they even play? They playing. Where do they play? Connacht? No, where do they play? I don't even know.
I don't know, yeah.
I guess
It's
Connacht.
one of those things where I have a lot of love for the GA, but also, please, if you want more people to get into it, make it less confusing to know where everyone is, because like I was going like, okay, so where's the Ulster League, and then Darren was like, oh no, Antrim play in Leinster,
Oh, the
and
hurling
I
is
was
a
just like,
mess.
man, I don't even know.
Yeah.
It's so difficult.
Yeah, no, it's really, really confusing because I remember I was watching, as I said, I got a wee bit into NFL last season, and trying to get my head around their system was like mind blowing, and like trying to figure it out. But eventually, I sort of got my head around it. It all sort of makes sense of like their conferences and like, is it like North and all this here sort of malarkey.
Yeah.
But like the reason why hurling just decided is like, geographically, yeah, Ulster, but we're going to put you in the Leinster. It's like, how does this make any sense?
Exactly. We'll switch it up. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. But
It would be
yeah,
hilarious.
with watch. So you'd never watched NFL or anything. Would you watch the Super Bowl even?
I would have tried to, but I always would have like turned it off at like halftime show, basically.
Yeah.
But
It's
I
always
just
you
didn't
make
understand what was
halftime show.
happening.
like the actual like plays and stuff
I
like
didn't
that.
understand the plays. I didn't understand like just how important like a quarterback is. Like I just didn't get it. This year I sort of more got into it for Patrick Mahomes and just Tom Brady. Just watching that show all year, and I was just like, I think the two of them are going to be in the Super Bowl final together. And like I was talking to a guy that actually knows stuff about NFL. The guy who was sports star for it, and he was like, no, not happening this year, not happening this year. And I was like, I've been watching this for a couple of months, and I'm predicting who's going to be in the Super Bowl final. This shit is easy.
Any harder games? Yeah, it's like if someone who's completely new to GAA is like, guys, I don't want to upset the apple cart here, but I have a suspicious feeling that Dublin might win the Sam Maguire this year. They're like, no fucking shit.
I gotta throw a bold claim out there. I think Kerry's gonna beat the Dubs this year. I think it's happening.
I really hope they do. Like me and Darren were talking about it, and a couple of other friends that are quite interested in GAA as well. And like I don't know, they kind of seem like the New York Yankees from like the early '90s, where it's just like an evil empire of a club that just makes you not like the sport anymore. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
It's interesting with the GAA. Like it's just so like it doesn't happen to a team that's that dominant and like does that well and like shifts player. It's so frustrating. As like Joe, a traditionalist sort of fan, you're sitting there like, God, you've like ruined the sport with your excellence. God damn you, your professionalism. That's actually one thing I'd run it because you're obviously big into your American sports. I would be very interested to know your opinion on the GAA if it was ever sort of go professional. What would you think of that?
Now, this is always really weird because, like you would assume that if you're playing like top level county GAA, that you like these are professional sports stars, but like just without being paid and stuff like that. I think that it would be. I would like to see people get paid for like obviously number one dedicating their lives to something. I would like to see a little bit of blowback with that, and I'm not trying to get into conspiracy theory or anything like that, but I want to know where all the money goes.
Yeah.
From the GAA. I mean, like I think it's literally I would say 95% of the money that you spend, like if you were going to like the finals or anything like that in Croke Park, all of the money goes to make those the cool camp backpacks and like sweaters and stuff like that, and then nobody sees any more of the money. I just want to see the receipts. That's all I'm saying. Like I'm sure you could pay your fucking players.
It's wild. Because I've sort of taken it from the standpoint of like the American leagues. It's like if you think about it, like if the games on RT or the games on Sky, that's obviously money deals. There's advertising there. But if there's no one on the pitch, I know there's people going to get upset about this, like because they really don't like the thought of GA players getting paid. But like, if there's no players on the pitch and you have cameras there, no one's going to watch it. There's nothing to watch. You watching these people have dedicated their lives. I do get very passionate about it because I just think it's insanity. It is insanity that they don't get paid. The amount of money, as you said, like where it goes, no one knows. But like, it's just mind boggling. It's like showing up. It would be the equivalent of like showing up for a stand up gig and being like, oh no. I know there's loads of people here and we've made loads of money off this, but like you just do it because you love it. It's like, yes, but go fuck yourself.
Yeah, no, and man, I hate to burst your bubble, but a lot of promoters think like that.
Really?
You see, this is one thing that I do love about Darren Matthews is he will not book you for a gig unless you're getting paid.
Oh, really?
Which, oh man, 100%. Like, because he's got a big old dirty socialist head on him. Like, so it's like if you're doing any work, he will pay you. Like, which is the best thing about gigging for Darren. But yeah, no, the amount of like, man, the places I've gone to for gigs on where it's literally costing me a lot of money to get there for exposure and stuff like that. Like for example, the worst one was probably the Wonky Donkey down in Cork,
right?
In Comedy Club, and they offered me €20 for petrol.
What? To come from Belfast?
To get from Belfast to Cork.
What the? That is ridiculous.
And you see, the worst thing is, I would have done it. Little did I realize that it was Super Bowl Sunday in 2019. And then I cancelled. I was like, I can't do it. I'm really sorry. And I haven't heard back from them since. So I think they might have taken it a little bit hard. But yeah, I think I kind of dodged a bullet with that one. And I got to watch the Super Bowl. So we win.
So would you have many issues, just because obviously my interest in comedy and stuff like that, would you have much issues getting paid on like a regular basis, or like if you ever went somewhere and they're just like, yeah, I know we said to pay you, but not happening?
No. Normally, like for example, I will if I'm trying to work some stuff out, I will happily gig for free. Because it gets you more stage time, and like, you know, sports is a different thing. You know, you can literally wake up at, you know, the crack of dawn, go out, you know, run your heart out, practice until you're perfect for the game and stuff like that. Stand up, it's not like that. The only way you can practice stand up is by doing stand up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So sometimes it's a necessary evil where you have to kind of like go like, okay, yeah, I'm not, you know, maybe I could be getting paid for doing this, but like getting to do it and getting the reaction of a proper crowd and stuff like that is sometimes more valuable than getting paid for making like making the bit the best that it can be. But yeah, no, getting started into stand-up comedy, don't be surprised that if you're not getting offered a lot of money when you kind of like start up, because it took me, I only started to get like properly paid when I started doing like the bigger clubs and stuff like that.
No, that makes that makes sense. We're sort of in this weird limbo time at the minute, because at the minute it's all sort of like professionals, well, semi-professional, professional gigs at the minute. There is no like open mics as far as I'm aware, anyway.
Yeah, which is really, it's really shitty, because like I'm the kind of person that, you see, if I had nothing on the Monday, I would like, there's no other place I'd be apart from like watching the other comedians at the comedy club, even if I didn't like have a set or anything like that. So I find it really weird that you know, there's nowhere to go to kind of like enjoy yourself or socialize the way I used to before the pandemic. Because loads of people, you know, they can go out to a restaurant now, they can go out to a pub with their friends and socialize, and it kind of feels similar to what it was like before the whole COVID-19 thing. But for me, I'm just going like, see, as soon as they open the PAV, I can't wait to wait there from 6:30 for the bar to open, just to, you know, just to get like a sense of normality back.
It was funny whenever I went to my first gig at the PAV. I think like what do you call, oh my god, I'm having a brain fart here. What do you call the guy there at the PAV? I'm so sorry for forgetting his name. Luke. Yes, Luke. Thank you. Yeah, so like Luke's good, and like Joe gives you your chance, stuff like that. I remember going the first time, I was like, I sort of watched, I heard of it, and I was like, I watched, and I went up to him after, I was like, oh, I'd love to try a set. And he goes, yeah, no problem, like match me, like we got a sorted. I was like, right, sweet, matched him. Didn't respond to me for like weeks. I was like, you motherfucker. And then I was just like, I went again to the comedy club, because I just wanted to go, but I seen him, and then he was just straight away like, he's like, oh yeah, forgot I need to match you back. You're gonna be scheduled in for like 3 weeks time. I was like, oh shit. Oh, like I was not expecting it to be. Yeah, I was like, I didn't expect it to be so soon.
Yeah, no, I remember going like, I think I cheated when I first started going there, because it was like I was like, right, I'm going to go to the gigs like consistently, so they can't forget me. Like
if I show up enough.
Exactly, I'm part of the furniture. So I started going. And like the comedians started to recognize me and know my name before I started doing comedy, because I was always in the crowd, kind of thing. And I was like, yeah, good luck trying to, you know, ghost my messages when I know that you know my first name. But so I think I kind of cheated in that response.
It's a great, I think it's just a great place to start. Like I had my first set, I was like, no one's coming and telling nobody. My friends were like, you know, uni history, like, so where are you heading tonight? What are you doing? And I was like, I'm so bad at keeping secrets. I was like, oh, I'm actually going to go try stand-up comedy night. And they're like, we're going. It's like, are you fuck? Like, no chance. I actually did the opposite of what everyone else does. And I was like, right, here's exactly how this is going to work. You're going to just sort of sit in the background, not really like draw my attention to you or anything like that. And if it goes well, you know, let me know. If it goes terrible, we'll never speak this again. But be honest with me. Be completely honest with me. And they're like, right, okay, no problem. So I think I had like 3.5 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. I can't remember what exactly it was. But afterwards, they're like, we actually enjoyed that. It was good. And I was like, oh fuck, right, okay, happy days. I like passed the friendship test.
It's like, we initially came here to take the piss out of you, and we're actually kind of annoyed because it was good.
Yeah, they're like, that was actually surprisingly good.
Yeah, I've definitely had that before. Like,
I'm gonna finish up here with a couple of quickish fire questions. So like, if that's okay with you. So like, again, I haven't got any of
100%.
these written down, but just things that come to mind, and they're all going to be sort of comedy related. So like, what advice would you give someone that's looking to get started into comedy? What would be like your number one thing?
Don't be dissuaded if you have a bad gig. It happens to everybody. Just next time you have a bad gig or anything like that, the thing you should do is just book another gig.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably the best advice I could give someone.
What would be the best way to get gigs, get more gigs, apart from, you know, being funny and being good, like at that initial stage?
Yeah. So be funny. Be sound.
Mm-hmm.
And don't take it personally if they don't get back to you or don't say yes or anything like that. I that to me, that's a very difficult thing to do, because I'm a person that takes it thick. I'm like,
yeah.
You don't think I'm the best comedian ever? What? So yeah, I should probably follow my own advice on that. But yeah, just just don't pester anyone. Just try and be sound, and that's how I do it.
Yeah, I think that works. Like, just, and I remember someone told me before, I can't remember who it was, it might have been Luke actually. He's like, don't try and be funny in your messages to get requests.
Yeah. Luke always says that.
Just be genuine, like, and you get sorted. I can only imagine the poor messages that fella gets, like.
Exactly, like 50 a day. Even through the pandemic, I'm sure he's been getting some going like, can I jump on to do Monday's spot? I was like, we're in the middle of a pandemic. There is no spot on Monday.
How often would you be writing material? Are you one of these guys that's constantly writing, constantly seeing things, or what sort of way do you work that?
Yeah, I'm constantly doing stuff.
That's good. And then for, I guess we talked on like the Hecklers a wee bit earlier, but like, how often would you say, like, how essential is it to have like that, like, you know, sort of quick fire response, as in like the scripted answer, or do you prefer the sort of like off the cuff ones? What do you tend to find works better?
I really do enjoy the improvised kind of like off the cuff ones, because they just seem so much more genuine.
Yeah.
But also, you see, when you have like one in your back pocket that it's like perfectly suited, you're just like, oh, there's very little things in this life that I like more than that.
And my final question is going to be today, Jordan, is who is your favorite comedian at the moment?
Oh, excellent. So at the moment, actually, that you've thrown me a curveball at the moment. So I really, really, really did enjoy the new Bo Burnham special, Inside. I thought it was fantastic. I've been watching a lot of David Cross, you know, the guy who played Tobias from Arrested Development. I think he's a fantastic stand-up comedian. But I would say, not saying excluding people from Northern Ireland and stuff like that, my favorite comedian would probably be Reginald D. Hunter.
All right, okay, very good.
Yeah,
I have no idea who that is.
Oh man, honestly, do yourself a favor. Just enjoy that, like.
Class. Jordan, I think that's going to do this. I really, really appreciate your time coming on. If you want, we can find you on all your podcast platforms.
All of them, man. All of them. So yeah, Injury Time, Pop Kernels, all that kind of stuff.
And then gigs coming up and stuff like that. Where are you going to be, or what's coming up for you?
I'm flat out at the minute, man. Up in Portrush this Thursday, Rathlin Island this weekend. And then I'll be coming to a city near you sometime in the near future. But then a big show coming up in February of 2022.
Oh, very good. Do you plan on doing like a similar? I seen your like sort of the special that you did in the Sunflower that you have on YouTube.
Yes, the same thing.
You're gonna. Are you planning on doing it in the same place?
No, it's in Limelight this year.
Oh, very good.
And the tickets will be released hopefully around September time.
That's amazing. That, I have to say, I just have to give you props where it's due. That special recording of Sunflower, I was watching it. I actually watched it quite a while ago and seen you in the Sunflower before the pandemic, I think it was, and very, very, very funny. I would advise everyone to go on YouTube. So much, go onto YouTube and go watch that one, because it's a lot of laughs. A lot of laughs.
Oh, thanks, man.
But yeah, thanks, Jordan. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate your time. If you've enjoyed this episode of the Smac Talk podcast, guys, leave a wee follow. We're on all platforms, and our faces are also on YouTube as well. So if you've enjoyed, let us know. Make sure you go check out all Jordan's stuff. Make sure you go find him in a city near you when he's about. And I'll see you all again in the next one. Cheers, Jordan.
Perfect. Cheers, dude.
Thanks.